Hello, Cybersecurity Law and Policy class. I just wanted to drop a quick video here in the sort of latter middle part of our third week here. I'm sorry I was a little bit slow off the mark this week. I have to admit that Labor Day threw me off a bit. I was out at Island Beach State Park fishing with my son, and though we didn't catch anything, they say a bad day of fishing is still better than a good day at work, and I think that's true even when you love your job, as I do. But let me just touch base a little bit. A great discussion last week. I think you all really picked up well some of the good things and challenging things in Barlow's declaration. And as a number of you observed, I think for me anyway, two of the really big challenges is kind of the rise of hate speech and other things like that online, and the fact that human nature, I think, both its good parts and its bad parts don't necessarily change in cyberspace, and it's awfully hard to police that kind of thing simply through community norms sometimes. And others of you also observed kind of the rise of the big multinational corporation, the role that they play in effectively governing cyberspace in many ways, and in surveillance and things like that. And we're actually going to talk about that a little bit more next week when we begin to look at contracts. So this week, as you know, we are looking at the domain name system. And as we look at the domain name system, I just want to note a few things as you're doing the reading and you're starting to get into the discussion board. Obviously, the importance of the DNS. It's really one of the core functions or core parts in many ways of internet governance. The role that ICANN plays, the role that the United States played in relation to ICANN, and now having handed off those functions entirely back to ICANN, and really the question about whether the U.S. should have retained a more direct role in that function of governance, or whether it was better that that function of governance was handed off. We have that piece, and then we also have the piece of the UDRP proceedings. I do want you to kind of take careful note of the kind of substantive requirements of bringing a UDRP claim. Read those cases, read what the substantive requirements are. I'll give you a hint. I usually do, on the essay parts of the final exam in this class, include a UDRP issue on the exam, because these are things that you will likely come across in practice. It's an area in practice that if you're doing this kind of work, you're going to handle cases like this. I handled a number of them back when I was in practice. The UDRP, I think, is not entirely controversial. There are some controversial aspects of it. There are some arguments that at least some of the arbitration administrators that handle those kind of claims maybe are a bit too favorable to trademark owners. In the early days of the UDRP process, there was some debate about whether really a trademark gives you a right to a domain name or not. I think by and large those kinds of concerns are not front and center anymore, but there still are some arguments now and then that at least certain kinds of the proceedings can be too slanted to trademark owners, and you can think about that a little bit as you read those cases and as you read those standards. So once again, I will see your work online this week, and I will touch base with you again early next week.